Tiffany, this is the class we're doing essentially is a it's a career services class, and we've got students in different years. You're the third alum that we've brought in this semester, so we kind of have spaced these out, and the students just want to get to know you a little bit and your career and all that stuff. So why don't we start with that? Can you tell us about yourself?
All right, yeah, that sounds great. Hi, everyone. My name's Tiffany. You guys can call me Tiff. Everyone that I work with does. I am an alum. I got my master's here at St. Joe's in Business Intelligence and Analytics back in 2018. And before that, my undergrad was at Seton Hall University, where I was also a student athlete. I graduated with a Bachelor's of Science in Mathematics, and I am currently a data scientist working for a company called R1 RCM. It's a revenue cycle management company. So that means that we help hospitals make sure that they're getting paid appropriately and making sure that doctors also get paid as well. In my free time, I love running and baking. I feel like that's a nice little introduction. I know that you guys have some questions and I definitely want to get to them, but I really love being a data scientist, and I feel like it's just such an organic fit from an undergrad in math and then a master's in business intelligence.
So Tiff, can you tell us, your first job after graduation, and looking at kind of your progression on LinkedIn, you definitely did some different things, and so can you kind of take us through that career journey a bit, from undergrad through deciding also, to get your master's?
Yeah, of course. So let's see, starting off with your first question, my first job out of college was working at a startup in business intelligence. So I was a business intelligence analyst. At the same time, I was getting my master's. So it was great working at the startup because, as you guys know, startups notoriously don't have a lot of employees. So you're wearing a lot of hats. You're able to get your feet wet in a lot of different areas if you're interested in them. So I was interested in tech. And a lot of what I was doing at that startup was being able to communicate the data that we had about clients to the client, to let them have some insight into what's going on. That led to this natural progression of clients asking, wait, is this good? So showing them a trend and saying, you guys increased by 2%. And then asking, well, is that good? Was that enough? And then that's what really led me into data science, to be able to do predictive analytics and then start being able to answer those harder questions for clients and harder questions about data in general. And it was a really cool journey learning about all of it. And while I was at St. Joe's, the master's program at the same time was going pretty well hand in hand. So that progressed from creating these dashboards in Power BI for clients to building out predictive models to be able to tell them, yeah, you guys are doing pretty good, or kind of, no, you are not doing well. And here's how I think that you should be operating, do a little bit better. So that was my first job out of college. That's how I ended up progressing a little bit further from just doing reporting all the way into data science. And then Scott, what else did you ask in that first question?
Um, the kind of career journey and kind of decisions that you made. If you can kind of talk us through that whole that whole journey.
Okay, yeah. So, like I said, I started off as a BI analyst. So that means making, in a nutshell, dashboards for the company I was at, is what that meant. So taking data from a database, projecting it into Power BI, and then communicating that to clients. That journey went from just communicating what I was building in Power BI to getting into the database to organize the data in a way to make the report, to better understanding the pipelines and the ETL, so that like extracting and loading into our database, what that process looked like, going all the way back to circling back to the client to saying, oh, okay, yeah, we need more insightful insights for you. So now let me start building out more complicated modeling and more complicated algorithms. And during that time of that startup, that was great. And then I found this wonderful opportunity working for my current company, where I became a SQL developer. So really fell very hard into databasing after finding how cool data is to work with. And while I was working as a SQL dev ended up automating a lot of internal like ad hoc processes for them, which then through my network caught the eye of what is my now manager, who was our senior director of data science. And I've been working as a data scientist now under him for a few years. So it all started with that little startup, and now I'm at a large publicly traded company.
Can you talk, so I saw that you did as a special education paraprofessional for a little bit. Can you talk to us about that? Because one of the things, well, yeah, talk about that, and then I'll tell you more about why I'm asking specifically about it.
Oh yeah, of course. So when I was at Seton Hall, my original plan was I was a double major, one in secondary special education and the other in mathematics. Through the process, just going through undergrad, found how much I absolutely loved math and that it was becoming conflicting schedules for me to continue aggressively down mathematics and to also continue with education and doing your placements. So I ended up dropping the secondary special ed major, going further into math. But when I graduated, before I found the job at the startup, I really wanted to give back in ways that I thought that I was going to be able to help my local community. So I took on the job of a paraprofessional. So it's a classroom one-on-one in an elementary setting, just helping them through their day-to-day, trying to encourage learning in diverse ways to be able to include everyone. Some of my volunteer experience while both in undergrad and graduate work was with children with special needs, and it really just has like a special place in my heart. So I was really glad that there was a time in my life that I was able to, for a part of my career, be able to give back to that community.
That's great. We've talked a lot in this class about exploration and just career exploration and having, ideas of what you might want to do and trying that out. And sometimes that takes you in that direction and sometimes it doesn't. So I think it was important to, to hear that as well. So thank you for sharing it. So the next question is about skills. And can you talk about the skills that you feel are most important really coming out of school or out of grad school in landing the roles that you had?
Right. So I think the most important thing is employers know when you're applying to jobs, if you are getting an interview, they already have your resume. They've seen your work experience, that you are fresh out of college or maybe have one or two experiences behind you. So they tend to meet you where you are in terms of the technical skills. So the most important skills to have while going into those interviews are the softer ones. So communication, teamwork, being able to speak to those, being able to speak to like your research process, because they aren't looking for someone who knows everything. They're looking for someone who's willing to learn everything and anything, and being able to research those things, a problem solver. So skills like that that aren't necessarily Python or R or Power BI. Those skills are nice and obviously valuable on your resume, but early on, definitely those you can communicate, you can be a part of the team, you can like help add to the company culture in some way. And going forward in your career, those more technical skills tend to build. So those become more important later. Always keeping those soft skills with you, of course, though.
You all have any questions about skills? Because I've heard conversation throughout the course of the semester where you guys have talked about some of the languages that Tiff just mentioned. But yet we just heard a different take on some of the skill sets that you really need to be able to sell. Good. Cool. Can you talk, Tiff, a bit about networking and the importance of it and how students can, utilize networking to land opportunities?
Absolutely. So your network is so valuable, and something that I wish that I had known going out of undergrad and into my master's program was both how valuable your network is and that it grows over time. So having great connections through internships, through your professors, like start building and fostering those relationships as soon as you can. And then I found that my network really grew once I started in like an enterprise level. So working as a professional full time, your coworkers become your network. The teams that you work with, the other business units, your clients, they all become part of your network. My current role that I'm in now was because a coworker of a coworker's manager caught wind of some of the work I was doing on my team, and then they reached out. So they found me through their network. So networks work both ways. Other people can be interested in what you're doing from what they've heard from your network, and then you can find other opportunities from your network into someone else's.
And can you talk a little bit about maybe LinkedIn and how you utilize LinkedIn?
Right. So when I'm on LinkedIn, I always try to keep at the very least my title up to date. And then I'll fill in some skills and some projects and some great accomplishments as they come through. Probably by the end of the year is when I really like to sit down with it. But through LinkedIn, they also have an option to say looking for work or things of that nature. When I was at one point looking for work, I was able to turn that on and a recruiter reached out. And that is how I came to find the larger organization that I'm in when I was that SQL developer, was because of a recruiter reaching out on LinkedIn, which has really just opened up so many doors for me. So I really have a lot to thank for like that virtual network that was created.
Right. How about experiences while in school? Now, I know you went to Seton Hall undergrad, but you were an athlete. We've got an athlete, at least one athlete, right, in the class with us. So can you talk about kind of some of the things undergrad that you felt were important for you?
I definitely feel like learning how to work in like larger groups, the dedication that came from having to balance both a student athlete schedule and a full academic load all at the same time. So creating those project management skills for yourself because of the very full schedule that was presented in front of me was like so invaluable. Being that well organized, keeping good notes, things like that. I also feel like my time at St. Joe's while I was getting my master's was great because the community at the school is so wonderful for building those networks. Everyone knows somebody else. They all help you in so many different ways, which was also pretty great. But definitely the being able to project manage yourself through undergrad because it's a large transition in your life going from high school to college, let alone college with other extracurriculars. Um, you can definitely add that as part of your resume that you were able to stay well organized and time manage.
I love that idea of project managing yourself and even being able to, utilize that type of language in an interview. Because I know that all of our students, especially in this class, are very busy and have a lot of different commitments. So the ability to keep those all afloat is key. So yeah, thank you. Can you touch on ways that your organization or industry demonstrates a commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion?
Yeah, of course. So, um, I really feel like my organization does a wonderful job of letting it be organization wide with DNI. So, the senior leadership I've gotten to work with have come from all different backgrounds, have all these really great, unique perspectives on projects and problems and obstacles. So, it creates this full net of like problem solving techniques. I think that also because we are a primarily remote organization, we're able to recruit and appeal to people in so many different actual locations that you're not just tied to a 20-mile bubble around like some actual building somewhere. So I feel like between that and we have so many different events and organization sub organizations within our group for communication and collaboration that they really are very committed to making sure that we have the most robust and full of unique perspectives based on DNI.
Great. What do you wish you knew about kind of your career or industry when maybe you were graduating from undergrad that you now know?
Um, that you don't need to know absolutely everything on day one of your first job. I think that it's so important to be like uh, excited and curious about everything that you're learning about the industry that you're going into, whether it be data science or if you wanted to get into cybersecurity or anything like that. Yes, have passion, be excited. But me personally, when I was entering into like a professional role, I was certain that I needed to know Python front to back and everything to do with like SQL and everything to do with pipelines. And your your team will meet you where you are with those tech skills. They will meet you there. They want someone coachable in the beginning. They know that you're coming directly from college. So to just take a breath and enjoy, you're only a junior developer once, where you have that opportunity to learn, where you have that lead way and that very, very supportive team to help guide you through it. The team support doesn't go away. You just tend to learn more as time goes forward. But the one thing that I do wish that I knew earlier on was to breathe, that it's going to be okay, that you will learn all those skills, you'll learn all the languages that you need to learn, and that the industry is constantly growing and changing. So you're always going to have to be learning new things anyway, and everyone is.
Well, so I love that answer, and I love, right, that like just knowing you don't need to know everything. Tiff, when you see or when you did see a like a position description, at what point would you decide, okay, I'm at a point where I can apply for this, right? Like I don't have everything on here, but I have some stuff. And in your mind, has that changed, right? Do you now know, based on even the answer that you gave, like maybe when you were an undergrad, you would have said, I don't have enough, but looking back, you would change that. Does that make sense? Like, can you talk a little bit about how does a student know that they should put their hat in the ring?
Of course. Um, I definitely think that if you are reading through a job description and you feel confident about, oh, I know how to do all of these things, apply. There is obviously some like self-awareness that I'd caution you with. Don't apply for a VP of tech role or like chief information officer role, um, just because of experience and things of that nature. But anything with the word junior or analyst, if you're reading through and you are feeling pretty good about what's on there, or at very least feel passionate about the mission that the company is doing, and it seems like a role that they would be open to training you on, then I would say absolutely apply. Um, at the end of the day, I'd say find an industry that you feel very passionate about. I currently work in healthcare, and it was my long-term goal, once I discovered that I love data science, was to give back in that way, to give back in the healthcare sphere. It's very close to my whole family's heart. My brother's a doctor, my sister's a nurse. So I wanted to give back there. And as long as you have passion for what you're doing, you can make up for some of those technical skills that you need to grow in with the excitement and ambition that you would end up bringing to the table.
Love that. Thank you. What are some trends in your industry that students should be following?
I think this comes as no surprise. I hope that you guys are following AI, GPT. The thing that I would say is the next big wave that's hitting industry is fine tuning your models, making your AI models learn on your company's data itself. So learning how to do that, cognitive search, um, like vectorizing your data, things like that. Those are just some buzzwords that I recommend you guys looking into. Um, it's all AI. That's there's obviously traditional modeling that's still out there and is still very useful. And not every solution requires AI behind it. I do want to also caution that, but the wave that's coming is all AI.
You have any questions based on that? A surprise? Not a surprise. Okay, that's good. Abdullah, nice and loud.
Hi, I'm Abdullah. My major is computer science. So dealing with data science courses here at St. Joe's, we get tasks and do them. We clean, prepare, and analyze different kinds of data sets using Python, R, and SQL, and submit them back to the professor. Is this how typically a data scientist works in the industry? And is this the kind of relationship a data scientist would have with their manager, where managers send tasks or data sets to work on and submit back on a certain time?
Yeah, so every organization is different. Every team works differently. The language that you use will also end up differing based on your organization. So most of what I use is in Python. Very few things are in R now for me. The relationship that I have with my manager is more collaborative than tasks being given and then results being returned. But that's also still quite normal to have in different enterprises, different organizations. But yeah, wherever you end up, it always will be that there is a task and that you work on it, and then there's always a deliverable, if that was your question.
Yeah, and is it only like cleaning and preparing, analyzing data, just like what we do in school now?
It does grow from that. Things you might end up having someone called a data engineer, who might be your person who's doing all your ETL, your data cleanup, your data pipelines, things like that. Depending on the organization that you work in, depends on the structure of the team. So if there's someone doing those roles, the data science role would be left to more modeling and statistics and things of that nature. And you might end up even working with a project manager, who is then the one that's in charge of what is the return on this investment and what is the project timeline. All teams end up working differently, but that's definitely a piece of the cog. And I would say it's important for data scientists to understand how data gets to you, the data lineage, and things like that.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Other questions that folks might have? Yes, Meadow.
I know you were at a variety of companies and a part of different organizations before landing your current role. I know job hopping is also like very popular right now, like going from company to company to like try and land a better role, I guess. How do you see yourself growing within your company, because it is in the medical field and everything like that? Staying with data science there.
Good question. So I've been with my company now for going on 5 years. And early on in my career, I was at that startup for about 2 years. And then to just talk a little bit about what the hopping was, 2 years at the startup, a few months at a larger company, Deloitte, just getting my feet wet there before I ended up finding this this home. I'll call it a home at my current company. I think job hopping infrequently can be beneficial. It's definitely a great way to grant yourself more exposure. I don't recommend doing it too aggressively or too often, only because it doesn't read well on a resume necessarily. Companies end up investing a lot of time, money, and resources in you as a new hire. So they would want to make sure that you're going to stay there, so that way they have a return on that investment. I see myself honestly staying at this organization. We're growing quite rapidly. So with so many different opportunities within data science and within my company and within my industry, I definitely foresee my own personal growth here. That's also something important when you're looking for employment, just to make sure that wherever you are has room for you to grow into as well. That's probably a great takeaway for how to limit job hopping. It would be make sure that wherever you land has room for you to grow into the role that you want to grow into.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Great question.
How difficult was the decision to leave Deloitte after not being there for a long period of time? And if you can like maybe help the students, like, what are some things that you need to consider if you do decide to move on from something rather quick?
Right. The decision was very difficult. Deloitte's a wonderful company. My team was wonderful as well. I don't have anything negative to say about them. I was reached out to by a recruiter on LinkedIn, and it happened to be in the industry that I knew that I inevitably wanted to grow into and to give back into. My recommendation is to follow your passion. So if you want to end up in an industry specific to something, whether that's tech or finance or healthcare or anything that's close and personal to you, honestly do it. I now go to work every day, but I don't feel like I'm working. I really just love the mission of my company and everything that they're doing. So I do feel like at the end of the day that I made the right decision for me. Just know that as you accept positions as well, if you don't feel like you'd be there for that long, because I loved the work I was doing and I loved the group that I was with, but I absolutely enjoy every minute of the work that I'm doing now, knowing what it's going towards.
Great. And I think it's just another indication on how powerful LinkedIn is and why it's so important. There other questions that you all would like to ask at this point? Yeah, Meadow.
I guess what inspired you to pursue your master's degree? And how has that helped you land where you are today?
Right. So my undergrad was in math. I did research in graph theory and some research in data science. Started the data science club at Seton Hall and had an internship with the New Jersey Devils as an analyst. And through all that, I just learned that there's so much more for me to learn and so much more that I wanted to understand about what data science was, what business intelligence was, how it works in industry and not just in research and in textbooks. So I did some research and found that St. Joe's has an amazing program for business intelligence and analytics. So it gives you the best of both worlds between here's how to code in Python and here's why that's good for a business. And that makes you so incredibly marketable to other employers. I feel like it's absolutely helped my career because it helped me build some network connections that even though I wasn't at Deloitte long, this is where I ended up finding the connection to get into Deloitte, to be able to build some of those larger skills, build a network at one of the largest of the big four accounting firms. So pursuing my master's was out of understanding that there was a lot more that I needed to learn. And then I feel like it has greatly helped me accelerate the building of my network, help me attain that one position at Deloitte. And then my current team that I'm on now, everyone on my team has some graduate work of some kind. So I feel like while it might not be a requirement throughout the industry because experience can replace the master's, I do feel like without my master's degree, I don't know if I would have been necessarily prepared for the roles that I've been able to grow into.
Thank you.
Questions? Somebody had submitted a question about being an RA.
Yes.
Who was that?
Oh, I think it might have been me again.
Okay.
I just noticed in undergrad you were a resident assistant, and a few of us in the room currently have that role. I was wondering for like your first job out of college, did you market that position at all with some of the softer skills, or did you kind of not use that role that very much?
In my first job application, I absolutely did. There is so much organization and project management and time management and communication and conflict resolution. There's so much conflict resolution that absolutely you can leverage it not only on your resume, but in the interview process. There's always going to be questions about tell me about something that you organized or tell me about when something didn't go to plan. And so many different community events or like time on duty. There's so many things that you can leverage your experience as an RA with. So absolutely, it's an amazing opportunity to grow in those soft skills the same way being a student athlete is an amazing opportunity to grow in those soft skills.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have like any advice, just general advice for the students? And also, is there anything that you would do differently? You know, either different order of things or different decisions in terms of your career?
Right. So in terms of advice that I give to all of you guys, it would be two things. One, if you don't know, ask. There was so many times in the beginning of my career because I was certain that I had to know everything all at once in my first position that I would spend hours researching something just to be able to meet an expectation that I wasn't necessarily asking for clarity on. So what I would do going forward for all of you guys, if you don't know what someone's asking of you, always ask for clarity. If you don't know necessarily what they're asking about, also ask them to give you more information. Whenever you start a job, you are going to be right out of college, you're going to be junior level. They'll understand, they'll meet you where you are, and it's perfectly okay to ask questions. And then in terms of what I would do differently, it would probably be asking more questions of my manager, using your resources at work, which is not necessarily just researching into the project that you're doing, but asking your coworkers, hey, what is this? What does this acronym mean? Where can I find this? Or things like that. Because it really helps build your culture on your team. That way you build that great teamwork together. And then it also helps you maintain a work-life balance. Earlier on in my career, I was definitely imbalanced. I was quite heavily working most of the time, just to try to research and know everything all at once. Being patient is incredibly important, especially in the beginning. And like giving yourself a little grace and space. You're doing great. The fact that you guys are taking LinkedIn so seriously and you're getting your education and you're applying to different roles, you're doing great. You're going to build up all those skills. You're going to build up your network. So giving yourself a little space and grace it will make the ride a lot more enjoyable. You'll get there.
Other questions for Tiff? Got it? Tiff, thank you so much for today. I think you gave some really great pieces of advice that that will be very valuable to our students. So really appreciate it.
Anytime. And I think one of you has already reached out to me on LinkedIn. I'm going to be adding you to my network. If any of you guys want to add me onto your network, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have about undergrads in math and computer science, more about the St. Joe's master's program, or anything else to do with your career.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I'll be in touch with any follow-up, okay?
Sounds great. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day.